Well, hey guys. Well, thanks for joining. Um, I got the Braddock Bluebelles here, legendary club soccer team. 1966. Back then we went with birth years. It's the same year I was born, and of course I was a high school classmate of Kathy Walsh and Barbara Wickstrand. And I'm meeting for the first time, or maybe I met a long time ago. We just haven't saw each other in a long time. Amy Patton, who went to Lake Braddock, class of '84, and Amy Gray, who went to West Springfield. Amy played at Virginia Tech, soccer at Virginia Tech, and Amy Gray played at NC State with Barb and Kathy. So I'm Julian, and I'm not sure if you guys have kind of seen what we've been up to here, but we started a Facebook group called Nova Legends. Me and Keith Leonard, who you guys may know as Primo, he played goalie for UVA, went to Annandale, class '82. I forgot what club team he was on, but it was Annandale. And during the lockdown, we all had, pretty much too much time on our hands in some regard. So we started a Facebook group for older, Northern Virginia basketball players, and mostly Northern region. And we started reconnecting, posting pictures, pictures of coaches, games, players, videos. So it was a great way to get back together and talk about the old games. And while I was doing that, one of the coaches, his name was Jimmy Lewis. He was a coach at South Lakes when I was playing. His history was unbelievable because he was the first Black player to play in the Northern Region Basketball League. He was the first Black player to play at West Virginia. And he was the first assistant coach at Duke, Black assistant coach at Duke. So I'm like, I got to interview this guy and get him on, on YouTube, because he's got a fascinating background. So I did that, and it was really fun. We had a good time. It's kind of well received. And I did a few more. I did Grant Hill. I did Tommy Amaker, a lot of the big basketball names. Well, then I started thinking, why don't I do other sports besides basketball? And plus, I was kind of running out of basketball people to do. And I'm like, I was like, Jill Ellis went to Robinson. So I messaged Jill Ellis and I said, hey, would you talk to me? And she said, sure. And I mean, she was like the easiest person for me to get. I mean, Grant Hill actually contacted me because he had a problem with something he heard in one of the podcasts. But Jill was very kind, and we had a great time talking. So anyway, I've been recently doing teams, basketball teams from the area, and I thought it'd be great to get like one of the legendary club teams and talk to you guys. And it's interesting because you guys probably didn't know how transformational you guys were even back then, and how the incredible things the girls and now the women from that club actually would do. So thanks for doing that. So I thought maybe we'd start. I introduced you very briefly and kind of roughly, but maybe we go around. I'll kind of pick the order, that way I can keep track, and just introduce yourself. Where you grew up, where you went to high school, but more importantly, when you started playing soccer, how you found the Bluebelles, and maybe just kind of we'll stop there, then we'll go around again. So Barb Wickstrand, why don't you start first?
Okay, I'm Barbara Wickstrand. I moved to Fairfax in 7th grade, started playing soccer in 7th grade. And then Kathy basically recruited me to the Bluebelles, which is the best decision I've ever made. I left a Fairfax club team, and the rest is kind of history. It was just, an awesome experience.
Barbara, did you have siblings that played soccer as well, or did you play other sports besides soccer?
I mean, softball and baseball. I played baseball in my backyard with my brother, but pretty much no. I mean, soccer was the #1 sport, and we played all year long.
Yeah, soccer's like, it was funny because when I was playing, house league soccer, because we all played soccer, we were on like a 120-yard field. I think it was 11 on 11 when I was like 8 years old. And I was really fast, not as fast as Kathy, but I was really fast. And, it was easy to score, but I never played like in the tight spaces they make kids play in today. So who knows what would have happened if I would have stuck with it. So why don't we go to Kathy Walsh Yow next?
Okay. Well, and by the way, Julian, thank you for having us all. It makes us feel very important now that we're getting old.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Northern Virginia. Been kind of boring besides going away to college at NC State. I grew up right near Robinson High School. I did have an older sister who played soccer, and when she was a senior, your sister was a freshman, and
That's right.
And we were in 7th grade, so I used to go out and watch, and it was, you know, it was a journey for me because I kind of didn't have a family that was soccer oriented. I played rec soccer. I started probably at age 7, and it was kind of a joke. But I grew up on a cul-de-sac. My next door neighbor and best friend at the time was Megan McCarthy, and big family, lots of soccer players in the cul-de-sac. So we used to play pickup all the time. And I went from being in and at the time it was called Braddock Road Boys Club. So that'll tell you how far back it went. But at the time, I wasn't really into it for about the first 2 or 3 years. And then Megan was kind of my inspiration. She was unbelievable, very athletic, and I was athletic, but I wasn't necessarily a soccer player until she kind of influenced me, and we played from that point on together, both at the rec level, and then soon we made an all-star team, and the coach that took the all-star team was Mike Laverghetta, and then that all-star team turned into the Braddock Bluebelles.
Wow. And you're similar to me on the big field, just kind of running around and outrunning people and scoring goals.
Yeah, I mean, at first I'll be the first to admit, I used to do cartwheels out on the field and, you know, look at rocks, and I was not that into it. And then I think it probably took me 2 years. And finally one day, I believe my dad said, you know, have you watched Megan? You know, do you see what she does? And why don't you give that a try? So at that point, it, you know, became a lot of fun and very quickly took off.
Awesome. So Amy, I'm not sure if you guys know, my sister is Julie Brown, and, you know, like Kathy and Barb, she's in the Hall of Fame at Robinson, and I only averaged 4 points a game in basketball. But Julie was a really good right winger. And as a matter of fact, she played varsity as a freshman, and she was all region player. She was a great player. She played with the Fairfax Strikers with Coach Farley, and they had this girl named Catherine Kelly. It was amazing. They had Kim Scala. It was one of those teams that was awesome. I think they were probably one of the top teams. They even, you know, they kept the best players from Braddock Road, I think. But anyway, so why don't we go to Amy Patton first? You can tell us about your journey until you ended up on the Bells.
I started kind of late with soccer, like when I was 11, and I just went to a friend on my Girl Scouts. I went to her soccer game and was just hanging out with them while they were warming up, and the ball went out of bounds, out of their circle, and I ran and got it and kicked it back. And the coach was like, would you like to join our team? So I joined their team, and I played for about a half a season, and then the Bluebelles were having tryouts. So I tried out for that team and made that, and that's pretty much my beginning of soccer. It was a very young career, and the Bluebelles pretty much molded me from there on out.
Hey, where did you live in the Lake Braddock area? Because I lived on Ashburn Drive. What's that?
I lived in Orange Hunt.
Yeah, okay. So
I was actually closer to West Springfield High School, but everybody in Orange Hunt went to Lake Braddock for some reason.
It was funny then. Yeah, I lived on Ashburn Drive in Lake Braddock until we moved. And back then, half of Lake Braddock went to Oakview School. So I knew a lot of my Robinson classmates at Oakview. Then we moved. My sister wanted to play basketball for Robinson. So we moved my 7th grade year to Robinson. So I think I lived right next to the Cunninghams. I think four doors down, but for some reason, I don't think we knew each other. But you know, we were neighbors. So
yeah.
And Amy, what position did you play in soccer?
I was center half.
Center half? Oh, okay, awesome. So well, Amy Gray, what about you?
Okay, well, I went to West Springfield High School. I was playing on the Golden Eagles, which was the Braddock Road Bluebelles competitor for most of my entire young age. I started younger than they, although they're all probably better than me. But I started young, went on club for several years, and then moved up, was tried out for the Golden Eagles, which was the Springfield team. And then we did pretty good. We won some, lost the Bluebelles some, but later down the road, the Golden Eagles were splitting up, And so I was kind of friends with people on Braddock Road Bluebelles because we played them, I feel like, every week. But Mike Lovagetta asked Joelle DePaul and myself to see if we wanted to come over. So I haven't had the legend time with them as I like, but I did see them on the field a lot. So I play outside back, left back. I haven't really changed. I was one of the first left boots out there, I think, even though now it's very common. And went to NC State with Barb and Kathy.
Well, that's great. Well, one of the things that girls have today that played is they have role models. And I mean, we didn't even have soccer on TV very much. I mean, I guess we could, as Jill said, we can go to the Diplomats game and see soccer every once in a while. And I think there were some German games on like public television, like on tape or something, but there was very few opportunities to watch soccer. So did you guys have any female role models? And my guess is the role models that you had are people that you played with and against, because it was really hard. Like the girls today can like Brandy Chastain or Mia Hamm or God, I'm dating myself a little bit. Carly Lloyd, Alex Morgan. But you guys, who did you model after? Barb, you want to go first?
Schumacher. I loved him. And I'd watch the black and white TV as much as I could whenever we could get the channel and just watch. You know, I'm very visual, so that's what I did. There wasn't very many women, like you guys say, but Ellen Dexter for the Springfield Golden Eagles was a phenomenal goalkeeper, and I looked up to her. And I think in college, it was Kim Wyatt that I looked up to. I mean, kind of looked up to them and wanted to beat them out. So that was kind of my deal. Sorry, my dogs are jumping up and getting a little crazy. So yeah, but I mean, mostly I guess it was men, you know, role models, and watching the Diplomats and the Cosmos, things like that.
Right. Yeah. Does anyone else want to chime in on this one, or?
Yeah,
The only one
I
the
would
only one I
say
can
that-
say is Michelle Akers is one of the better, like one of the best headers, best winner in the air, great shot, runs constantly, always seemed to be like on her game, playing 100% at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Who was Michelle Akers? So she played around this area?
She played for University of Central Florida, and then she was on the national team. She's huge.
Golden Boot. Yeah, in the World Cup. She was phenomenal.
Right. Kathy, you were gonna say something.
I was just going to say, from the very beginning when we were young, I mean, and I'm talking 7th, 8th, 9th grade, there was a team, a Braddock Road girls team called the Cougars, and they were 1 year older than us. And that was really, we looked up to them because they were the first really good team in our area in Northern Virginia, and they were killing everybody, and they were right in our backyard. Their coach lived next door to our coach. So we, you know, trained at the same field. And so we would scrimmage them all the time. And I think that became a big rivalry. And soon we actually became better than them and more successful. So I remember clearly them being very impactful when we were young.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and when we were playing young, our coach had a professional soccer player friend named Jean Michelot, who lived in the neighborhood as well. And he would come to a lot of our practices and help our coach. Our coach was really organized and took a lot of notes and read a lot of books and would come to practice with clipboards, with workouts and drills. And I felt like Jean helped assist him a little bit in that, but I really looked up to Jean as a Washington diplomat. And his wife, Denise, she played soccer in a women's league, and she was really athletic, a PE coach, and I really looked up to her as well. And she inspired me a lot.
Yeah. So what kind of, since we're talking about practices, Amy, Patton, what kind of practices did you guys have? I mean, they probably don't resemble much of what you would see today. I mean, were they like technical, or what kind of things did you guys?
Yeah.
All the time. We practiced 3 days a week and Saturdays before games, and had games on Sundays.
And ran and ran and ran.
Yeah.
We ran our butts off. Yeah, we
played
practiced all the
small-sided
time.
games. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of small-sided games with the cone as a goal. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Just a goal, cones.
So it seems like it wasn't. I'm sorry.
I felt like we
Hey,
were
Amy.
trained really well.
Yeah. It seems like things haven't changed that much in terms of how you guys were trained. Yeah. So how about parents? Nowadays, the girls soccer, the parents are as crazy as the boys parents are. I mean, they're really intense. The girls have private trainers, and everyone's trying to get advantage. If your girl's not playing, you're going to fuss at the coach. Were the parents? Mine certainly weren't as bad for my sister as they were for me. But were the parents intense as they are today for the girls?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so at all.
no. Do you want me to answer or is Amy answering?
Yeah, if you want to, Kathy. Yeah, sure.
Okay, no, I think that's the biggest change between back when we played and now. Our parents used to drop us off and leave. They never stuck around and watched, and that quickly changed. And when I started coaching soccer, that was really a shocker for me. But then also as a soccer mom, I also wanted to stick around and see, what kind of training it was. We were paying a lot of money. You want to see, is my child progressing? Are they in a good place? Are they working hard? And all of those things. So I think parents now are very much helicopter parents, but when we played, they came to games and that was it. They never, ever cared about what we did at practice. And so often, and we were talking about our coach, Mike Laverghetta, he, like Amy said, he was so organized and just really a special person, but he didn't even have a daughter on the team. And he used to come out and coach us and spend so much time with us, and we would drive him crazy. And he would, cuss at us and make us run laps, and we would just laugh about it and kind of give him a hard time. But at the same time, we were all developing and progressing, and we had this great camaraderie. But it had nothing to do with the parents. All the credit, I think, goes to Mike and the relationships that we, formed as a team. And I think back to, it's so funny, all the cussing that he used to do. He used to just cuss us out, and me in particular, because I couldn't shut up. And so he would just cuss me out at practice. And now, if that kind of thing went on, I mean, parents would be just going crazy over it. It'd be in the newspaper and on the news, and they'd get in trouble for it. And it just was unheard of back then.
Yeah. Where did Coach Lapaszewski, that's it, right?
Laverghetta. He was actually a lacrosse player at the University of Maryland, an All-American keeper, right, Barb?
I don't know if he was a keeper, but he was an All-American for sure.
Yeah, I think he was a goalie.
Wow. Okay.
And but how did you learn that? How did he become such a knowledgeable and effective
Studied and
soccer coach?
Yeah. Reading and watching.
Right. Yeah.
He also got really good resources coming in when we were getting ready to play in the Nationals. We had Jill Ellis's dad, John, who was absolutely phenomenal, train us to a higher level, where I think Coach Mike just said, I can only do this. And so getting outside sources was his specialty.
Yeah. One thing I remember is my sister used to have random girls from other teams stay with us. So we'd play a tournament against a team from usually Long Island or North Jersey, it seemed like most of the time. And I remember this because I was hoping the girl would be cute then when it would stay. So it would always be like someone would come, and then when Julie would go there, they would get in a van, and my parents may not even go, and they would stay with some random family there. Did you guys do that as well, I assume?
Yes.
Yes. And our parents never asked any questions. We would have like 8 people in our coach's Jeep Wagoneer with no seatbelts, and we would, be driving on these road trips and get out in the parking lot of a hotel, and some random car would pull up, and no questions asked. You would get in their car and drive to their house, and there was no background checks, no questions at all. It was like, we'll see you at the game tomorrow.
Yeah. Did you guys have any other experiences that I'm sure you had similar experiences because you were right there too?
Oh my God, it was great. I mean, yeah, and such great friendships from it too, especially with one of the Canadian teams that we stayed with often, going to the Robbie and then them coming to the Wags. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, so when did you guys realize this was going to be really intense. I mean, travel soccer now is like almost like a fraternity or a sorority. You spend the whole year with them. Maybe you have a month or two off in the summertime, but you're traveling, you're in hotels, practicing 3 or 4 times a week, games, maybe 1 or 2 games a weekend. When did you guys realize this is going to be an enormous time commitment?
From the get,
yeah.
I think from the get-go, I think that's what we all strive for. We want it to be the best. We really had that goal from every tournament on. That's what I loved about the Bluebelles and coming to them, because we wanted to win, we wanted to learn, we wanted to get better, but we were all just such an amazing family and just wanted to do it for each other and for Mike, because he put so much of his heart and soul into it. So I don't know. It was a special team, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
How many years were you guys together playing club?
Well, it changed because, like I said, when I was in 5th grade, we became the all-star team that immediately became the first select team for Braddock Road. That was 1966. And so there was a core group of us that from 5th grade all the way up until, we went off to college, stayed together. But once we started really becoming, the best team in the area, kind of like what Barb said and Amy, initially and very early on, we recruited Barb to come over from the FPYC team. Then we recruited Amy to come over from we called it Springfield A at the time, the Golden Eagles. There was an A team and a B team, but Amy actually would mark me and we would just talk all during games until finally she left Springfield and came and joined us. But it kind of progressed that way. There was a team from Annandale and we took their best players, Falls Church. There were so many teams and the best players just slowly gravitated to the Bluebelles and we became this super strong, very committed group of girls.
What was the core though? I feel like there was a core like 10, wasn't there? That started with you and Amy.
Was it that many? I don't even know. I know that, maybe it was
me.
Slowly, yeah.
It was me, Kathy, and Julie were the originals.
But Megan, wasn't there Megan and
Megan
Krista?
and Krista came the next season.
Okay.
For some reason, I don't know why Megan must have moved out.
You know why? Because her dad was in the Navy and they moved to Pennsylvania for a year and then moved back.
So then it was Krista and Megan, and it was the 5 of us. And then for a while, until we started getting all these amazing players were coming to us. And thank you for recruiting Barb, Kathy. Thank you so much.
Hey, Julie, and a lot of times too, our roster was like 13. I mean, these kids on the field, I owe my life to. They would run and run and run and run. We didn't have any subs. There was one tournament, the Columbia one, that we won with 10 players. I mean, it was insane.
Wow.
The fitness level of this team.
Well, and as we became a better team, there were also girls that dropped off, that lost interest or weren't getting playing time, and more teams were developing after that. We had a B team at Braddock Road, and so there were girls that dropped down to that B team, and so there were more options as time went on.
Right. Well, who was your and Julie? Amy Patton. When you said Julie, you're talking about Julie Cunningham. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So who was your biggest competitor? So I mean, you're taking everyone's players, which still goes on today in girls soccer. But who was your biggest competitors? I mean, someone had to be left to give you some competition. When my sister played, their best competition was a team out in Bowie somewhere for some reason. I guess they were far enough away where they weren't in the same talent pool as the Virginia girls. But how about you guys?
Golden Eagles, probably, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
And then who was that other team Wendigo Bauer played on?
Fun Dancers.
Well, yeah, that was me before I came to the Bluebelles. But what about Wendigo Bauer the last year when they were trying to beat us out for the state cup? Her dad formed that all-star team.
Is that in Reston, maybe?
I think so.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
But then she jumped and came over to us too. So
Yeah.
Well, so you got this really talented team. So you have to have a lot of type A personalities, and you guys, you're winning games, and you're spending a lot of time together for a long period of time. I mean, was there cliques on the team, or did you guys, or was it like one big happy family the whole, generally the whole time, or how'd that work?
I think we
Anybody
were
wanna try that?
I mean, there were some players that were closer than others, but I really genuinely think we were just really super close.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't remember any cliques.
Yeah.
We were all a big team, and I just remember having so much fun with everybody. Like every practice was fun. The tournaments were fun. Traveling was fun. We just had a lot of fun together.
Yeah. It was our whole social life.
Yeah.
Right.
I can remember our entire team going trick-or-treating together, dressed up like an army. Do you remember that? We all dressed up in
Kathy, I wasn't invited that Halloween.
No, we stayed at Mike's house. I think we spent the night at his house.
Oh, maybe I did. I don't know.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. So
There's gonna be a war.
yeah.
That might have been before Barb was on the team,
It
though.
might have been.
I think it was.
we
'Cause
were
we were
Good recovery. Good recovery.
I'm pretty sure you weren't there yet because we were young. We were trick-or-treating.
That's what I just said. If we were young enough to be trick-or-treating, then
Yeah. I remember we dressed up in military garb because of
Right.
a movie that was out. It was a movie. I forget what
The
it's called.
G.I. Jane.
No, before that.
way before that. I think
And,
it was like,
An officer and a gentleman?
No,
no, I
I
think
can't remember. I'm sorry. But anyways, we went out and we'd gotten a little bit of trouble, I think. But I remember egging Mike's house. We egged his house and then we spent the night there.
Do you remember getting Carolyn Rice's house?
yes.
TPing it? Oh my God. And I almost had a concussion running from her husband. We had fun, Julian.
Yeah, I know. I wish you guys would have invited me to the party. I think if I would have played with the Blue Jays, you guys would have been nicer to me. But that's the way it goes. So Amy Gray, so you ended up going to West Springfield. So did you play soccer there all 4 years? And how did your soccer team do? And did it conflict with your Bluebelle obligations?
We were just okay. I was talking to Barb earlier about that today. We always, Lake Braddock and Robinson and Woodson were always seemed to be pretty competitive with us. But West Springfield just seemed to be just an okay team. We never really had any blue chip players. My best friend, Karen Whitehill, she went to Radford University. She was a year above me. Other than that, I don't really remember seeing a lot coming through. And Barb mentioned Ellen Dexter. She was on the Braddock. She was on my Golden Eagles with me. She was a really good player, but she actually went into the military. So I can't really think of anybody. I think the boys team had a couple good chip players, blue chip players, but I don't really remember anything standing out. I always chose the Braddock Road Bluebelles over anything with the high school because I knew that I had a bigger commitment to them. And that's where that's pretty much where I got recruited. I mean, Larry Gross recruiting from NC State. If it hadn't been for the Bluebelles, I probably wouldn't have been seen at all.
Was there a big conflict between and this, I guess it was in spring. So did Bluebelles have lots of games and tournaments during the high school season?
No,
No.
it didn't work that way then.
Nope.
Yeah, that's good. Who's your high school coach, Amy, at West Springfield?
Luke Bateman.
Did he know what he's doing?
He actually did. He was the only one that had a left peg. So when he saw me, he was like, wow, I haven't seen that in a while. So that was one thing that I came, and he had a really nice, strong shot. He liked to play indoor a lot, and I like to play indoor a lot too. So he was a real good player. I think an old player, I think he was actually a science teacher.
Yeah.
So he did know the rules. He knew the rules, and he knew how to get us in shape and how to play. So
it's really, nowadays, I'm not sure about how it was back then, but I can imagine the same. like the kids who have great high school coaches and programs, they like playing high school because, like, for example, my son plays for Yorktown, and the coach, he's like a B license, FA license, and he's a great coach. And they have a lot of Arlington travel kids, so the sessions are great. You don't lose anything. But a lot of the kids, like in Loudoun County, they don't like playing high school because the teams aren't very good. The good players don't play high school there. So was it kind of like that in Northern Virginia for you guys, or did everybody play high school, whether or not your team was good or not?
Yeah. Yeah, we played high school. We all did. I mean, I think it was for the experience, but we definitely, I feel like we lost a lot technically when we went to from high school back to the Bluebelles. Mike would talk about that too, I think.
Yeah, he hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would always come back, or we would come back, and it would be summertime, and he would always say, I have to undo all the bad habits that you guys picked up during high school. So he didn't like letting us go, but it was expected, and we all enjoyed playing for our high schools, and we played against each other. So it was a lot of fun seeing our, Bluebelle teammates out there. And but we always, our number one priority was to get back to the Bluebelles as quickly as possible.
Hey, Kathy, you played varsity all 4 years at Robinson?
Yes.
Yep.
So you're Coach Reich was
I
your
ran
coach?
track too.
But was Coach Reich your coach? Was Coach Reich your coach all 4 years?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of coaching session? What kind of sessions did he run? I mean, you just mentioned that when you went back to the Bluebelles, you had to kind of retool yourself. But so what kind of practices would you have with Coach Reich, and how did you guys play? I went to some of your games, but I don't remember too much.
It was very different, with high school, because you have so many different levels, and you have, from 9th grade to 12th grade. So on a varsity team, it was never very consistent as far as it being developmental. You couldn't really work on things. It was more go out, warm up, stretch, do fitness, scrimmage, and get ready for, your games. Mm-hmm. And we did some drills, and I do remember Sue Vodka coming in and helping. And but I don't remember any sophisticated drills at the high school level. I think we got more of that with our Bluebelle team.
Yeah, but you guys, and Amy, Patton, I get right to you, but like Braddock, but you guys had a lot of really good players at Robinson. So I mean, you had probably 5 or 6 Bluebelles, maybe. I mean, and you probably had about 10, 12 really good players, right? So it could have been more sophisticated than most teams, I would think.
Yeah, Lake Braddock had like almost half the Bluebelles, and Robinson had the other half.
Okay, right.
So that's why I think the competition, it was so fun and such a fun rivalry, Right. But Lake Braddock, they had Carolyn Rice, and Carolyn Rice was a very good coach.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So.
And Barb, you played varsity all 4 years also at Robinson?
Yep.
Oh, wow. And I know we won regional a couple of times. Did they have a state champion back then, or did we win states?
We won the state championship our senior year.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I think I remember that. Well, Amy, Patton, let's go to Lake Braddock. So I assume you probably played varsity 4 years at Lake Braddock as well?
Yep. Yeah.
And who was your coach? I'm sorry?
We had a couple coaches, I think, before Carolyn. One was Larry Paul. It was when I was a freshman. But she came in, I think, when I was a junior and a senior. And all I remember is we didn't really have a choice. We had to play high school. We didn't.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
We couldn't play with our club. They made us go play with our high school teams. And I feel like the club had to deal with the high school. So we didn't have a choice. But I remember playing Robinson, like half of our team was there, and Lake Braddock, we had me, Julie, and Krista, and we would go meet with Kathy, Megan, Jill, and Barb right before the game, and we'd go to the corner flag and we'd do a Bluebelle cheer. Do you remember
I forgot about that.
We'd go and we'd go, Bluebelles.
That's so
Even
funny.
though we were playing for our high schools, we were still really tight, So, but yeah, I had Carolyn Rice. She was an amazing coach. I, as well, always was looking forward to getting back to the Bluebelles because high school was different levels, different players, different levels, different grades. And we weren't as cohesive and just played for a very short time together. but I always was just chomping at the bit to get back to the Bluebell practices.
Yeah. And how did you guys do at Lake Braddock? Were you guys competitive?
Yes. I'm pretty sure we were very competitive. It was either us or Robinson. And I think my junior year, we went 20-0 and won regionals. And then my senior year, they won regionals. And that was the first year we had a state and they won state. So that was.
Yeah, that was the year Janet Caswell ran me over and knocked the ball out of my hands and you guys beat us in regionals.
Yeah.
But if anyone could have won, we'd hope it was you, Amy.
Well, I'm glad you guys won too.
Was there ever any friction, Amy, between the Bluebelles and the non-Bluebelles on the high school team? Did you guys ever, was there like any friction? Because you guys are doing a cheer by the end of the field. And
they were probably not aware of it, but no, not at all. I don't.
There's not a.
No, and we had Cougars. The year ahead of us, the 65 team were the Braddock Road Cougars, who went to nationals, and I think were runner-ups the year before us.
Okay.
So we had high-level national playing players on our team. So did Robinson. We had half the Cougars, and it was Bluebell Cougars on both teams. And I'm shocked looking back at what level of players that we had, and I wasn't aware of it at the time. I was assuming the rest of the country was kind of playing soccer as well. But looking back, I'm so amazed at how many amazing players came out of our area.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's amazing.
Also coaches. I mean, we'll get to this in a bit, but if, all in the 90s, 2000s, there are so many like coaches around that are all from Northern Virginia, especially on the girls' side.
Yeah.
So I was talking to. I forgot his last name, but you guys know him. He's a legend, right? His name is Bo something, but he played pro in Europe. But he's a high school coach at Langley for boys, and he runs a club. And he only coaches one team at his club, and he coaches high school. And you don't make a lot of money coaching high school soccer. So I asked him, why do you coach Langley? Why don't you just coach more teams in your club? What you can do more with the club. The kids are probably more technical. It might be more fun. He says when you coach a club team, you go to the game, you have a great game, game's over, no one's even there. You go to a high school game, you got a crowd, the games mean something, people boo, people yell. It's just so much more fun. And, I never thought of it that way, but, here's a guy I'd rather coach. He's a high licensed coach as well, but he'd rather coach high school than coach club, even though he owns a club. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Lucky kids.
What's that?
I said, those are lucky kids that have that kind of a coach.
Mhm.
Well, apparently he's tough on them. I guess they complain all the time, but I think he's a great coach.
Is that Bo Amato?
So anyway, what's that? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's pretty tough with his kids, but he's a funny guy. He definitely makes an impression. So anyway, club is coming to an end, and high school is coming to an end. You guys are going to decide on colleges. So how did you guys decide where you're going to go? And did you talk to your Bluebelles teammates? Because there's a pattern here. Three of the four of you guys went to NC State. So let's start with Amy Gray. Why did you decide to go to NC State, and did you wait to see what your other teammates were going to do before you made that decision?
Well, I was looking at going to Radford and made George Mason. And at the time, I thought George Mason was too close to home because it was only 20 minutes. And I wanted to one of the things that I loved about traveling with soccer is that, when I actually went to college and it was four hours away, I didn't really feel lonely from my family as much because I've been gone every weekend. But I also felt like when I went to NC State, I had an automatic family. I had Barb, Kath, Krista, Mary, Indelicato, and myself. And so all five of us that played on the Bluebelles went to NC State. So I had an automatic 5. It bothered the coach though, because we were like the core, and 11 freshmen started that year. So I think that was one of the reasons why I went. I thought Radford was a little small, and I just felt like it'd have been funner to go somewhere that you don't know anybody, try to kind of grow.
And how about you, Kathy? Did you consider taking a track scholarship, or
Not at all.
why did you end up?
I really was not a track athlete. I would run track to stay in shape for soccer, and that was it. I hated it. And I didn't even run my senior year at all. And I would only do it in the winter. So it was not important to me at all. And as far as the decision to go to NC State, you know, I watched the interview that you did with Jill, and I laughed when she said the part about how she chose William and Mary because she had no idea. And she asked either Megan or Julie, where are you going? And they said, William and Mary. And she goes, okay, I'll go there too. Because I kind of think we did not have the luxury that, you know, like my daughter had playing ECNL, when you have 70 college scouts on the sidelines watching your showcases. We didn't have showcases back then. We had tournaments, and really the WAGS tournament was the tournament. And I think that's how we all got recruited. But maybe you would look over and there would be 3 coaches. And then they would come up and talk to Mike Laverghetta after the game. So the recruiting process was nothing like it is now. And when I decided to go to NC State, it was basically the coach had called Mike Laverghetta and said, yeah, I'm interested in a number of the girls on your team. And we're about to come into a whole bunch of money because he at the time was the coach of a men's rugby team at NC State. That team was folding. And all of that money he was now going to have. So that was really what enticed us all. We were like, okay, I'll go. And, you know, it just was really fun that so many of us Bluebelles went there together.
That's great. How about you, Amy, Patton? How'd you decide on tech?
Well, like Kathy said, we didn't have very many choices of playing. I mean, Title IX was pretty fresh for us. Most of the colleges didn't have varsity programs. So that was a challenge. To get in a school for soccer, you pretty much had to get on your own merit with your grades. Some schools had a little bit of money, but it really wasn't a big thing when we were that young. But I just wanted to stay in state. I really wanted to go to UVA and I didn't get in. I was really putting all my eggs in that basket. And I didn't make it in admissions. So I went to Virginia Tech and they did not have a varsity team at the time. And I played with the boys. I just practiced with the men's team and did small games with them and played indoor with them and just continued playing, but I wasn't on a college team.
Yeah, did you ever, and you know, us UVA guys, we don't often get along with folks from Tech, but did you ever have any regrets about going to Tech? And not because it's Tech, I was kidding, but maybe gone somewhere and played soccer, or are you glad you made the decision anyway?
Well, I was almost went to George Mason, and they were in our backyard, and I just wanted to get away. I didn't want to stay that close to home, and that was sort of a regret because they won a ring. The next year they beat UNC and won.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jean Michelot was coaching there. I was so close, but I didn't. I just had to leave. I had to get away from home. So
I look back on that and I kind of feel sorry for George Mason, because remember at the time it was Hank Lung, and he would come to our games and he was so supportive of all of us. But none of us wanted to go to George Mason because it was too close to home.
I know.
Yeah. And not only that, Kathy, it was too close to home, but it was also, George Mason wasn't big like it is now. I mean, George Mason and James Madison are these enormous schools now, but they were really up and coming and almost commuter schools at the time. I mean, they were definitely on the move, but I think a decision probably would have been made differently these days for some, maybe not for everybody though. But anyway, Barb, what about you? How did you end up going to NC State? And I assume, like Jill Ellis, it was your friends were trying to convince you to go also?
It was friends. I mean, I really wanted to go to UNC, but then UNC didn't recruit me. So NC State I thought was the second best thing. And the fact that all the, 4 other Bluebelles were going, we had a really, really fun recruiting trip. So, and then there was they had money that they could, back then there wasn't a whole lot of scholarships. So, I mean, we were blessed to get, the money that we got to play.
And they had just won the national championship in basketball.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
We went the weekend we went on a recruiting trip. They were winning and we went out at halftime at the basketball game, and I remember going, "Oh my God, they're all clapping for us."
Yeah,
It
exactly.
was here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so it must have been awesome being at NC State, because, being at UVA, the ACC sports were amazing. Just watching all those great basketball players, Michael Jordan, Sam Perkins, and I mean, everyone had great players. Did you enjoy like just the life of being a student athlete in the ACC? Barb first, and then Kathy.
My God. I mean, yes, that was so much fun. But Kathy and I were roommates, and it was a step down coming to NC State because the caliber was almost worse than high school. So we were
Really?
kind of freaking out. We were like, oh my God, we're gonna lose this game by this much and this game by this much. We ended up winning and tying a whole lot, because I think back then we just played really hard for ourselves. But the soccer part of NC State was a hard transition the first couple of years for sure. But yes, being involved in the ACC and so close to Chapel Hill, we would go to Chapel Hill on some weekends and hang out with some of their soccer players. So that was really, really fun.
Wow. So the fact that you guys weren't, who was your coach at Kathy at NC State?
Larry Gross.
Did he know what he was doing?
Larry Gross.
Let's talk about George Tarantini, our assistant coach.
Tarantini was our assistant
Let's
coach.
switch to George Tarantini. So George was the coach of the men's team, and he was something special. I mean, he definitely helped out with the women's team, and we all were just, really, we respected him so much. And we had also some of the alumni who had left the men's program at NC State. They would come and help Larry Gross with the women's team as well. So, I look back on it and I always say, and we used to always say this, the Bluebelles could have crushed NC State, just because of the chemistry and the style of soccer that we played. I think, it was a transition, like Barb said, to go from the Bluebelles and the way we played to college soccer and being at it. I mean, NC State was an amazing school for athletics, and the ACC, and they treated you great. You've got all of this wonderful stuff, and the fields. They built this new, Method Road Stadium for us, and so there were a lot of perks and really nice things that we got to experience. But I would not say that we were impressed with the level of soccer when we got there. But also, I think college soccer for women had really just started to take off. Like Amy said, Title IX was really just coming into the picture, and they were getting money for women. And from that point on, I think things got better and better.
It was interesting because when I talked to Jill about this, she told me she got the Wisconsin or Minnesota job? Wisconsin job, I believe.
Chicago.
No,
Illinois. She was at Illinois, not.
Yeah. And it was the first team the school had ever had. They had a club team in, I think it was like 99. And then 2000, they got the first team. You're like, this is the Big Ten. And it's just like this at the ACC. You would just assume they would have a Division I soccer program, many years ago, but I guess it just wasn't the case.
1984 was the first year for women's soccer at NC State.
Right.
Right.
We had 11 freshman starters.
And Julian, just to give you an idea, our coach set up games with like UNC our senior year, George Mason, UVA Club, Radford, and we actually won all of them except for UNC, and we scored on UNC back then.
Didn't we
That was
tie
a
them?
Bluebelle court coach.
I thought that was a tie, UNC.
I think the second game, we had 2 games with them.
That was fun.
Well, you must have been pretty good. Those are pretty good results. Right?
No, she's
That's
talking
the
about our
Bluebelles.
I'm
Bluebelle.
talking about the Bluebelles did that.
We traveled and played all of the college teams.
I see.
Our senior year.
Yeah, it's too bad you guys could have been a package deal and all gone to the same school. So in women's soccer, I guess there were teams like UMass and William and Mary that were as good as much bigger universities. Is that the way it worked back then?
UMass was,
No.
Are you talking about caliber of soccer back then?
Yeah, because a lot of our top players, they didn't necessarily go to the biggest schools. They went to schools like, for example, Holly Helmuth. I knew she went to UMass. And I remember she was a big recruit at the time. I'm like, that's interesting. I didn't, you wouldn't think of them as being a huge program in at least men's sports, but they were good in women's sports.
Scholarships. It really was who had the scholarships and the money. If you were a really good player, then those teams that had the money were recruiting those players, and there was a pocket of schools that had scholarships, female scholarships. So it was the George Masons, it was the NC States, it was the Radford had some, so those were kind of, Central Florida was one that had some money. So they got the Michelle Akers of the world, so there's like a handful of schools that really had scholarships that I think were able to pick the best players.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about after college. So you guys, we all graduate, and the soccer career, at least as a collegiate player, is over. What did you guys do next? Amy, I'm gonna ask you first because you might not be able to see. I'm pointing at you. Amy Gray, what did you do next? Did you continue playing soccer, or did you just get a job like the rest of us?
So no, I actually started coaching kids 12 to 14 for the Castle facility here, which is Capital Area Soccer League. And just picked up some teams to pick up and just started doing more and more. And then I started working more on weekends. And then I ended up coaching coaching one of the dads, their son, and he was the owner of the Columbus Mudcats baseball team. So he saw me, I had his child for 2 years, and he said, you know what, I think I'd like to have you as a community relations. Would you be willing to come up and be in Raleigh and be a director of community relations for the baseball team, it'd be the Carolina Mudcats? So I said, shoot, yeah. So I did that for a couple of years, even though my degree was sociology, criminal justice. Then when I ended up doing that for a couple of years, that was fun, but we wore a lot of hats and a lot of hours. And I really didn't want to go to the next level, which would have been the Pittsburgh Pirates at the time. So I had met somebody, and I went to nursing school, and then graduated, got pregnant, and had my first child, and worked in cardiac for 10 years. Since then, did cardiac, and then I worked for a plastic surgeon for 15, then he retired, and now I have my own practice. So I've been doing that for 7.
Well, that sounds awesome. Did you stay involved in soccer through those years, or did you probably were pretty busy with the cardiac stuff?
So I did cardiac weekend nights. I actually coached both my boys. I taught them how to kick left and right from age 2 on. They both played all the way through high school, and they did well, but at 12 and 13, I let them go to classic because I think the practices were getting a little over. They would be doing 6 and 8 drills at one time, and I would be just doing 4-corner drills and cones. And so I think it was the best thing for them. And so I stepped back, bought a really nice camera, and started taking pictures.
Well, yeah, that's what I do. All my Facebook friends know that too. So, Amy, Patton, how about you? What did you do next after tech? And did you stay involved in soccer?
No, I moved out to Oregon and started a family, and I started coaching my kids when they were young, and I was coaching classic soccer, and my daughter just happened to be really tall. She's like 5'11". So she switched over to basketball. My husband's a basketball coach, and we coached AAU basketball for several years and ran an AAU club out here in Oregon. Cool. Yeah, so I've been involved in soccer and basketball as an adult. But right
now your kids don't. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right now I haven't been coaching for a few years, and I miss it. And I'm sure I'll be doing it in the future at some point.
Oh, great. Well, Kathy, how about you? I feel like I ran into you in the Northern Telecom building.
Yeah.
Is it true?
Yeah.
I I thought we worked in the same building, but for some reason we didn't even get to. We didn't hang out at all. But so what did you do after state? Someone told me that you have some kids that play soccer. Tell us a little bit about Griffin and your daughter. I didn't realize that your daughter played as well, and your involvement in soccer too.
Yeah, so right out of college, I immediately moved back here. And when I ran into you, it was in McLean, and I was a corporate sales manager for a company called Benchmark that was building the Lansdowne Conference Resort, out in Leesburg now. And
Yeah.
I was in pre-opening, so I was a corporate sales manager there. So once I got into the hospitality industry, after I left Lansdowne, I went to Hilton Hotels, and I did the same thing with them. And I played in an adult league with a very competitive adult league that was all, former college players. And it was a lot of fun, and I played a lot of indoor. And then it got to the point where once I started having kids and the games were at, 11 o'clock at night, I couldn't hang anymore. And so I stopped playing, which was probably a good thing, because then I had two kids very close together. And once they got old enough to start playing, of course, I enjoyed, the coach at the Pee Wee level. And then it was only my daughter that I continued with her. We ended up, it was very interesting, because when I showed up with her and she was ready to start playing travel soccer and we went out to the tryouts, the coach ended up being Carolyn Rice, which was amazing to me. And we could not believe it. And so she, at that point, said, oh, well, you got to at least stick around and help me coach. So I started coaching with Carolyn very early on when my daughter was U9, and we stayed together coaching all the way until it became very competitive. She started playing ECNL, and then I handed her off her team. We merged with the team that Paul Ellis, Joel's brother, coached. And so Paul took over mine and Carolyn's team, and he kind of took them from there. And it was a very competitive ECNL team, one of the top teams in the country. And I then enjoyed, she went to and played soccer for 4 years at Duquesne. And I loved going and watching her play. And at the same time, my middle son, Andrew, was playing for Roanoke College, and he grew up playing for PWSI. And so we really had nothing in our lives except soccer. And that still continues to be the case now, because my youngest, and there's a big gap between my two older and then my youngest, who's 18 now. So Griffin, his experience and pathway has been completely different. I coached him, of course, when it was lots of fun, but he always played up 2 years. And so he started playing travel soccer on a U9 team when he was 7. And then from that point on, we were pretty strategic and involved with getting him involved in the academy. And then very quickly, I was driving him all the way to DC every day for practice, picking him up from school, getting him there, hanging out. You're not watching the practices. It's an academy. You're sitting in the parking lot. And so it was, just a completely different experience with him. And then at age 16, I had to pull him out of Centerville High School out of Fairfax County and start homeschooling him because that's when he signed a contract with DC United. And he was doing a lot of traveling. He was on the U17 World Cup team. So they were going to Brazil and all over the place. So, vicariously, I continue to compete through him, because that, and still is really all that we have going on in our lives right now.
Yeah.
Following his career.
Well, it's like a soccer dad's dream to have a kid play at that level. And I emailed you that. I think I saw. Yeah. I could only speak for the dads, but I think I did saw his pro debut, and I knew Sam, obviously, as you probably know, because my next door neighbor was Tim Lieber, which is my idol. I mean, Tim was a great basketball player, and I used to take me around with him and play basketball. And Sam and Tim were friends, so I used to, Sam used to always tease me. He used to have a name he used to call me. It was funny, but he's such a good guy. So I idolized those guys growing up. So Griffin comes from very athletic and good stock. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
yeah, sure. So Barb, you get out of state, and I know you became a coach, and you coached at the University of Minnesota. So what was your arc like
Well,
in your
after
career?
college, I didn't want to give it up, so I played in France in Poissy for a couple of years. Carrie Sawetnik,
awesome.
She played at UNC, and then we also had a forward from Cal that was there, so I was the third American. But then I got into grad school, so I came back to NC State, went to grad school, and then went to athletic administration at Arizona State University, which was just the most fun job I've ever had, event coordination. And then Sue, who graduated from Robinson, Montaigne.
Yeah.
She was the head coach at Minnesota, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to coach?" And I was like, "Not really, but I don't have a job in athletic administration." So I was like, "Sure, I'll come." So I became her assistant. I was at the University of Minnesota for 6 years, and then she left to go to Georgia. So I became the head coach for 4 years, and then too many losses, and they said, "See ya." So then I was like totally burnt out. I didn't want to coach anymore. But then Sue lost an assistant at Georgia. So she literally was the only person I would coach with again because we had so much fun. So I went to Georgia with her. And then we had a bunch of injuries. So they fired her. And she was the U17 national team coach. I mean, she was phenomenal. So I was like, you know what? I'm over coaching. And I got into real estate. And the rest is history.
Yeah, and you enjoy real estate, Barb?
Love it.
Oh,
I did help some, I started coaching boys, in the high school level, which was a lot of fun. There's not as much drama. So, I mean, yeah, I kind of did a little bit of coaching, but I really definitely took a break after college coaching.
Coaching boys and coaching girls is very different. And I hate to generalize, but when you coach boys, they can hate their teammates. It doesn't matter. They'll play and it's fun. They're competitive. Girls, they really excel if they like their teammates. If they don't like their teammates, they're not going to last long on a team. And boys, it's not great, and the parents might be fighting on the sidelines, but boys can play and exist and not like each other. That's been my experience. But I don't know, maybe your results may vary.
Yeah, that's true now. I think back when we played, it was old school. We always called it old school. So we could be in a fight and still play.
Yeah.
We'd kind of like to, brush it off, but definitely now you're right.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you guys, and we're coming to the end here, is the amount of women that came from not just the Bluebelles, but from Northern Virginia. Mia Hamm. There's so many. I mentioned Holly earlier, but there's so many great players that came from this area, and I don't know why that happened. Maybe you guys have ideas. Maybe we just were dense in terms of coaching, and that's why it made the difference. But do you guys ever have any regrets that you guys wish you had the opportunities that maybe girls have today that play soccer, or is it kind of cool being kind of pioneers and being maybe the first generation or so? Generation makes it sound old, and I'm the same age you guys are, but the first generation of really girls soccer players that really excel. You guys ever think about that? Anyone want to try that?
Do you guys want to?
Amy, you're gonna say something, or
No, I liked being the pioneer. I don't have regrets of looking back and seeing what's happening today. I feel like I just really liked being at the forefront. I didn't realize it at the time. I don't think we did realize what was happening, but we were pioneering the sport, and especially in our area.
Yeah.
There were definitely some hot spots. So up in Massapequa, down in Florida, Atlanta, and we just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I mean, I contribute a lot of my success just being team sport. I take that on and off the field all the time. Everything I do seems to revolve around being part of a team. So I have zero regrets. I loved it.
All right.
I'm super grateful too that it doesn't cost or didn't cost our parents what it costs parents now. I can't even imagine. I probably couldn't have played at the level that I did, and I think, I hats off to you, Kathy and Amy, and all you guys going, in that direction, because that's tough. I mean,
Yeah.
just pressure wise for the kids and pressure for the parents. I think it's really, really tough.
Well, and last question, and Barb, you can start with this. What do you guys think you'd be successful today if it wasn't for if the Bluebelles never existed? If you guys worked together and played on the team. In other words, and also you can answer, what the Bluebelles meant to you in terms of your not just playing soccer, but your career and your family and your life.
Bluebelles were family. I mean, and I think our personalities were just, Mike knew how to pick players and develop players, and we all wanted to be successful. So I definitely think that just helped us, in our professional lives as well. We do whatever we could to try to do our best and succeed. So, but the memories, I mean, we all get, I think, teary-eyed just thinking of how close we were and how much fun we had.
Right. How about you, Kathy?
I
how did it affect-
agree. I mean, we were such a close team, and I think back, and like Amy just said, we didn't know that we were pioneers, or that, we were just kind of going through the motions, and we were so fortunate to have the leadership that we did have. And, people like Jean Michelot and John Ellis and some, people that stepped in and helped us. And at the time we didn't really appreciate it. But we didn't there wasn't a lot of drama because we all had the same goal. And, after we went and won the whole national championship and we all went off to college, I just remember we were all bawling, and, it was very difficult to make that transition. But then after college, I have benefited from being able to look back and share my experience with other parents and other players and my own children. And it's been so exciting for me to watch the women who were my teammates go on and become big time coaches, like Barb and Julie Shackford at William and Mary. And, it's just, and there are some that I still run into. I see Julie and I see Megan quite a bit. But everybody else is kind of all over the country now and doing their own thing. But I mean, I just feel so lucky to have had that experience. And like Barb said, it didn't cost a lot of money. And it was, we really benefited. I look back now, the only thing that I think I would do differently if I could do it all over again is I wish I had been a student of the game back then. I was too immature, and I think I was too selfish to really think about the big picture of the opportunity that was given to me. And instead I was just along for the fun. And, I was extremely competitive, and every single tournament that we won, every game, every championship, the celebrations were huge. And it was just such a wonderful, a journey. But I wish now that somebody had shook me and said, you need to work on this more. You need to study the game more. You need to understand not just the technical and the physical, but the tactical and the mental. And there's so much more that goes into it now that I was clueless back then. And so I admire women now who have become coaches and, have so much more to pass on. I just think it's so special.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks, Kathy. Well, Amy, Patton, how about you? What is, being a Bluebelle, what has it meant to you? And do you think, what effect has it had on your life?
I think it gave me a lot of confidence as an adult, just as a person. Winning a national championship, it's been very dear to my heart my whole life, and I feel like it's helped me in everything that I've done, especially coaching and just raising my kids. I always have this core system that I can look back at and I'm really amazed at everything that we had given to us back then. We were just very lucky to grow up in such a hotbed of soccer that I don't see that, especially out in Oregon. There's not a lot of soccer except maybe up in the Portland area. And it just breaks my heart sometimes when I see these players on teams. They just don't get to have those types of experiences that we had that were very just amazing experiences. But I just feel like I gained so much confidence from winning the championship.
Yeah, that's great, Amy. Did we lose you, Amy Gray? Did we lose you?
Where are you?
I think we lost her.
She might have an
Okay.
appointment.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I kind of went over here. Sorry, guys, but look, it's been great. It's been an honor. First of all, meeting you, Amy. I think we probably met years ago, but it's been a while. But my dear friends Barb and Kathy, you guys are always awesome. I didn't get to know you guys that well in high school, unfortunately, but you guys are always very nice to me, and I always had a lot of respect for you. Especially, you guys were great athletes. So it was
so
great
were you.
reconnecting.
Yes.
Oh,
I
it's
remember
great.
you, Julian, in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Totally.
really
Thanks for doing
little
this.
guy. Yeah. What's that?
I said, thank you for doing this. This is really, really cool. All your podcasts and inviting us, it's an honor. So thank you.
Oh, of course. Yeah, this is great. And I'm just glad you guys were able to do it. Sorry I got my days mixed up, but I think it was an awesome discussion. So hopefully we can all keep in touch. And I can't wait to show you guys, run this back so you guys can listen to it. I think it's going to be awesome.
Okay.
You've
Thank
done a
you.
great job. Thank you, Julian.
Great seeing you guys.
You're welcome. Have a good day, guys.
You too. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.